Hello everyone, I'm Kibitz and welcome to this World Tour recap video, where I'll show you everything that's going on in this 1,200 hour Satisfactory world. And now, I actually have like 4,000 hours in the game and have been playing since alpha. So going into this Let's Play, when Satisfactory 1.0 came out, I had plans. With the main one being to push Satisfactory to its limit. So I practically planned out the entire playthrough before even starting. By using Satisfactory Calculator, Satisfactory Modeler from Steam, this alternate recipe tier list on Reddit, and the whole whack of spreadsheets. And by the way, there will be links to all the tools I used in the description, as well as to my Patreon, where if you want to support me there, you can download my world save and all of my blueprints. And lastly, there's a 90-minute Satisfactory guide I made if you have any questions about how to play the game, how to plan the game, whatever. I pretty much put all of my Satisfactory advice in that one video. But on to the tour! And this is the second tour video I've made of this world. The last one was at the 800 hour mark, so we'll fly through the quote-unquote early game pretty quick here. And just getting started in Satisfactory, of course, you just want to get your bearings, collect what you can, and get to coal power as soon as possible. With my first steps being to get to Mark II miners and Mark IV belts so I could set up some efficient factories, then get a bunch of dimensional depots up online so it was easier to build. And finally, collect all the mission-critical alternate recipes I needed, so that eventually, I can make a huge power plant, the Turboplex. But that was actually just a stepping stone to the main goal of making a nuclear power plant, using all of the uranium in the world, because I thought if I had all the power in the world, I could do anything. First, I needed a general main base and aluminum production, but it's also a good spot for my hypertube cannon room, a portal room for the future, a factory of factories where I automate all my building materials, and also just a place to call home. And from there, it was time to go nuclear. And so, we picked this biome, we nuked it, paved it, collected all of the resources around the world, and then brought the plant online. But not fully online. We just used uranium fuel and synced all the plutonium. Because if we use plutonium fuel rods, we'd end up with plutonium waste, which, like uranium waste, can't be deleted and would flood our world. We'd deal with this issue later, but for the time being, it was fine having 900,000 megawatts. And that all took 800 hours-ish. But the main thing is, we had a beefy power supply, and we could absolutely start doing some crazy projects at this point. Which brings us to the next 400 hours, where we could finally start to play the game. And step one was to automate nuclear pasta, a mission-critical late-game item that would be our first final space elevator part to automate, but also help us use portals and actually complete our nuclear power plant. But I also wanted to make a ton of it because this project would be very power-intensive. We want to go crazy with this playthrough, and so I aim to make 60 nuclear pasta per minute. Which is, patently insane. I do not recommend trying that. But good news is, half of the project was already done. The pressure conversion cubes I had automated fully when I was working on the nuclear power plant. And also, the world was fully developed with infrastructure. We had train lines out the wazoo, drone ports everywhere, a main central base to organize from, and absolutely no problems at the nuclear power plant, of course. Because ImKibitz's nuclear power plants are always top-notch, without any issues. Ever. But the bad news is, for 60 nuclear pasta per minute, that'd take about 12,000 copper powder. 12,000 copper powder works out to about 72,000 copper ingots. Or 28,800 copper ore using the most optimal recipe. And just as an FYI, that's about 2,000 unoverclocked refineries. Thankfully, we had power shards out the wazoo, we have automated them, so the numbers are a little bit more chill. 800 refineries, 64 water extractors, no biggie, But considering there's only 36,900 copper ore in the entire game, we'd be using about 80% of the world's copper supply in one single project, which is a little spooky. Also bonus points to Sam and allowing us to make more copper later on, cause big save. But now, where do we start with a project like that? 30,000 copper, pretty much? It's insane! And I figured I'd just systematically go from biome to biome, harvesting chunks of the world for all of the copper. With the first target being the Rocky Desert. And since I was there, I was like, there's other stuff in this biome we could use later. So I kind of just vacuumed all of the items to one location, left most of it there, and processed all of the copper into copper powder, which we'd ship out in huge trains. from there, there's just a bunch of random copper nodes kind of around our main base area. So I centralized all of it and then sent it off into the pit. And then I just did more of the same. Paved the biome, built the refineries, processed a casual 24,000 copper ingots, made it into copper powder, and again, off into a train. And now after all these huge projects, go figure, I was sick of building refineries. I had built probably 500 at this point, but we still had one more biome to harvest, the Dune Desert. And so I made this Hellspire blueprint. It's actually 3 blueprints where you can stack refineries higher and higher and higher. So instead of just making one giant field of refineries, we have these random Hellspires dotted across the landscape, which I really, really love. And as we set them up throughout the Dune Desert, we also added in some basic infrastructure like bringing trains in, preparing for belt highways, and all that sort of jazz. But after that was done, we had completed it. 72,000 ingots crushed down into 12,000 powder. And we had the pressure conversion cubes. So all we had to do was build 120 particle accelerators, XD. But I had a really, really cool idea for the factory design, where we'd have all the particle accelerators in huge rows so we could see them all going off. Then we'd have a central location with a portal and an area to distribute and deal with all of the items. So I made some more blueprints using screens as walls to come up with this, the Star Forge. And after fitting it with a 16:16 load balancer, which we needed because all of the trains were bringing in copper powder at different intervals, right? I was able to finish off the Star Forge with a fantastic foundation and complete our first space elevator part. But with this huge supply of nuclear pasta, we could actually use some of it to complete our nuclear power plant. Because up until this point, the nuclear power plant was only using uranium fuel rods. We were making plutonium fuel rods, yes, but we just sent those to the awesome sink because we had no way to deal with all the plutonium waste. But now we could. We could turn it into Fixonium fuel rods. But this was new Satisfactory content for me at the time, and there was a chance, small chance, that there could be complications, and I didn't want to flood another world with nuclear waste. Again. So instead of jumping right into production, I spent some time making an emergency waste processing facility. Essentially, it would take it and turn it into fuel rods that would then be sunk. Or in the case we recycle plutonium waste and turn it into Fixonium, we have some extra reactors to burn the rods. And Fixonium, although it can be deleted by hand, can't be sunk, only burned. And with that backup option in place, it was time for me to start using some of the SAM for Fixite and using it to make Fixonium, and eventually the Fixonium fuel rods themselves. And to get that process started, I started burning plutonium fuel rods finally. That made plutonium waste. The plutonium waste made Fixonium, which made the Fixonium fuel rods, and those went to some pre-built nuclear power plants. Because this is all being planned, right? And I've had the nuclear power plants built for Fixonium since the beginning of the project, actually. And now, like probably 1,000 hours in, they're actually coming online. Of course, with a year-long project, there's gonna be a few small hiccups here and there that I had to patch out, but thankfully nothing major. And while I tinkered with things, it gave me a good opportunity to work out the final details for the plant as well, like aesthetically and functionally. Then once that was all sorted, the plant was fully operational, providing us with a cool 1 million megawatts of power. And with it complete, and our first space elevator part complete, it was time to actually beat the video game and automate the final 3 space elevator parts. And this is kind of the diorama world of all the different machines and systems we need to build in order to complete the game, where each single machine represents an entire production chain. So yeah, this project's gonna be pretty intense. And it's gonna be centralized in the Dune Desert. So I spent about a month organizing the entire biome, collecting up as much water as I possibly could, and then setting up a central control building for when the factory got underway. As the Dune Desert will be transformed into our final factory. But there is still a pretty big problem. We had resources kind of lurking all around the world. We still had a big factory half built in the rocky desert. Our main base had a ton of extra resources, and there's also our turboplex, our first power plant that was built with suboptimal recipes and methods. And so I kinda was like, chew, and destroyed the turboplex and turned it into the rocketplex. which not only made like twice as much power as the Turboplex, but saved us like thousands of resources, which I redirected to our main base. And that's where we're at. Where the plan going forward is to automate as much as I can in our main base, then automate whatever I can over in the Rocky Desert, bring all the goods towards the Dune Desert, and beat Satisfactory. And that has been the last 1,200 hours. So again, if you want to download this world, it is available on Patreon. And if you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like and subscribe for more. But until next time, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and bye-bye.